Hello everyone, this is Steven here. For a while, I've wanted to make some video guides about Star Wars Micro Machines, talking about different aspects of the line, different releases, and then kind of serve again as a guide, talk about availability, prices, if you're looking to collect, buy, or sell, anything like that. I just kind of go over the history of the toy line. So today, I wanted to start with my favorite part of the Star Wars Micro Machine line, the Epic Collections. These collections all feature vehicles and figures based off of 6 different novels set after Return of the Jedi. And these were released in 1996 and 1997. We'll start off with Epic Collections number 1, based off the book Heir to the Empire by Timothy Zahn. Of the 6 books that these Epic Collections are based off of, this is the only one I've actually read. I'm about 2 chapters away from finishing it, however, I don't have the second book in the trilogy, and this ends on a cliffhanger. So I've been hesitant to finish it until I can actually find the second book. Now, I don't normally care too much about packaging when it comes to Micro Machines. I generally collect them loose. However, this packaging is so well done and so unique. It's the same size as the book that it's based off of, and the packaging opens up just like a book. So you even have a synopsis of the book right here. And then, this see-through window, this is where you have all the ships and the characters displayed, and it looks really nice, and there's nothing else in the line quite like it. So again, very unique and very cool. We'll go over each of the different vehicles and characters in each collection, and then we'll talk about availability and kind of general pricing. So for this first collection, Heir to the Empire, we have a Skip Ray blast boat, Imperial Star Destroyer. That's actually an interesting conversation there. We'll talk about that definitely. And this ship is Lady Luck. Then we have the 3 characters. Left to right, we get Wedge Antilles, Mara Jade, and Grand Admiral Thrawn. So, you'll notice there is a format with the vehicles and the figures in this collection, and this goes for all 6 Epic Collections. You have 2 unique vehicles, 1 re-released vehicle, and then you have 3 unique figures. We might have seen some of the characters before. I mean, they say Wedge Antilles, really you could just say, oh, it's a Rebel pilot. So we've seen plenty of Rebel pilot sculpts before, but this one is unique. So even if it's a character we've already seen, the sculpt itself will be unique. So, the Skip Ray blast boat is a type of fighter gunship type of vehicle, and it's used by the smuggler Talon Card and his organization, and that's actually who Mara Jade is working for when we first meet her in the book. The Lady Luck is Lando Calrissian's personal ship at this point in the series. One of the things happening in Heir to the Empire is someone keeps trying to kidnap Princess Leia, and so she is stowed away on the Lady Luck, and her and Chewbacca go to Kashyyyk, where she can be safe with the other Wookiees. Now, the Star Destroyer. Yes, it's a re-release. However, if you go to the old Micro Machines Museum website, and you go to the Star Wars Micro Machines, and then you click on the Epic Collections link, you'll see that it says that the Star Destroyer in the Heir to the Empire collection has white engines. So I actually grabbed my white engine version. There it is. However, in my time of collecting and selling on eBay, I've had about maybe 4 or 5 of this collection go through my collection sealed, and they have Star Destroyers with blue engines. Now, I wonder if it's maybe possible I've bought that many repacks and I've been, lied to that much. It's honestly not a huge deal because the white engine variant of the Star Destroyer isn't particularly rare compared to the blue engine. Now, if you have a different experience, definitely let me know. Definitely say something in the comments. However, from my experience with Heir to the Empire, it's not the case that the white engine variant only comes in this collection. I think it's interchangeable, and there might be different explanations for how or when you end up with a white engine Star Destroyer versus a blue engine, but whether or not it comes in Heir to the Empire is not that reason. And then the characters. Wedge Antilles, we know him from the movies. He's one of the ace pilots of Rogue Squadron. Mara Jade is a dark Jedi. She was actually the Emperor's secret apprentice, and she really hates Luke Skywalker. In the book, it's actually kind of hard to read when she's interacting with him because she's really mean. She's really mean to him. Then finally, there he is right there. He doesn't need a gun. He doesn't need a lightsaber. But he's still one of the baddest baddies in all of Star Wars. It's Grand Admiral Thrawn. Super smart. Super well done character. In the book, he's just super fun to read. Just an absolute treat. One of the best bad guys in Star Wars. Moving along, the next is Epic Collection number 2, based off the book Jedi Search by Kevin J. Anderson. This is the first book in the Jedi Academy trilogy. General synopsis of this book is that Luke Skywalker is working on putting together his own Jedi Academy. The vehicles we get are a TIE Interceptor. Just your normal TIE Interceptor, nothing really unique there. The Sun Crusher. It's a tall micro machine. Z95 Headhunter, one of my favorites. And your 3 characters are Admiral Daala, Marath Duel, again I'm going left to right, and I'm blanking on the name. Kyp Durron. Pardon me, his name is Kyp Durron. So, once again, your re-released vehicle here is the TIE Interceptor. There's nothing special about it. It's just a normal TIE Interceptor. The Sun Crusher is this prototype super weapon. It's the size of a starship, the size of a starfighter, I should say. But it's actually able to fire these special torpedoes that can cause a sun to go supernova, so it destroys entire star systems. Z95 Headhunter is sort of a predecessor to the X-Wing, but a lot of people still use it. It's very fast. I believe at some point Mara Jade pilots one. I don't know if she's in this book or not. Again, I have not read this book. Characters: Admiral Daala. She's a high-ranking officer in the Imperial ranks. Marath Duel, this little green alien guy. He's head of the spice mines of Kessel, the mining operation. At some point, as the Empire was collapsing, he led a revolt against the Empire and took over. Then Kyp Durron is one of Luke Skywalker's students. He's a young Jedi. Actually, at one point in the book, he steals the Sun Crusher and uses it against the Empire. Moving along, book number 3, collection number 3, based off The Truce at Bakura by Kathy Tears. This is a standalone book. This is actually not part of any series. The general synopsis plot of this book is that right after the destruction of the second Death Star, suddenly an Imperial outpost lets out a distress call saying they're under attack by some mysterious reptilian aliens. And now what's left of the Empire and the New Republic, the fledgling New Republic, must come together in an uneasy alliance to defeat a common enemy. So, the vehicles, this is Shriweir, I think is how you pronounce it. The Flurry. A TIE Fighter. And it's just a normal TIE Fighter, that's your re-released one. Your characters are Dev Sibwara, Blue Scale, and Gariel Captison. So, the Shriweir is the command ship of these invading aliens, the Cyrook. They're the reptilian bad guys that are attacking this Imperial outpost. And again, the New Republic and what's left of the Empire have to come together and fight them off. The Flurry is a rebel ship, but it's a stolen Imperial ship. One of my favorites from the whole line. It is a Quasar Fire class light carrier. So the Flurry specifically was captured by the Rebels and then modified to carry B-Wings and X-Wings. Once again, that's just a normal TIE fighter. Nothing special. The characters, Dev Sibwara is a captured human. He's captured by the Cyrook. They have some type of like mind-reading machines or life-extracting machines. Somehow they capture him and use his knowledge against the Republic. Blue Scale is one of the Cyrook. Apparently their different scale colors have different meanings, and the blue ones are royalty. Then Gariel Captison is an Imperial Senator who actually falls in love with Luke Skywalker at some point. So, these are the first 3 of the Epic collections. You'll notice we're going to take a little break, because there is a big difference between these first 3 collections and the next 3. Collections 1 through 3, these came out in 1996 and received very wide retail release, just as wide as any of the other Star Wars Micro Machines. So there's no premium on these. They're not rare in any way. If anyone says they're rare, they're mistaken or misleading you. Again, the ships are really cool. It's really cool having Micro Machine versions of vehicles that we only see, that only make an appearance in a book. I know one thing I think is really cool. As a kid, I had the Essential Guide to Vehicles book, and that had schematics, and then I found the Micro Machines Museum, and it was so cool seeing Micro Machine versions of these ships that I'd only seen these black and white schematics of. So again, in terms of price, you really shouldn't be paying more than $10, maybe $15 for a sealed one of these. Like altogether, people will be selling all 3 of them as a lot for $30. That's perfectly fine. In terms of reselling individual stuff, none of these vehicles are really going to get any more than that $3 to $5 bulk price. Again, they're common, they receive wide release. Some aren't particularly even iconic, like the Shree-Wur. I mean, what the heck is that, really? It doesn't look like any other ship in Star Wars, because there's nothing like it in the movies. The Flurry is usually of some interest because it is a capital ship. It's an Imperial capital ship. Some people might know them from the X-Wing game or the Armada game if they play that. Z95 Headhunter, same thing. That's somewhat known from video games. But again, all these ships, they're all pretty common. Great, they're awesome, but they're common. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. But coming over here to these next 3 Epic collections, these were released in 1997. And as far as I know, they were only released as a special mail-away offer. So these were never even in stores. You wouldn't find these at Walmart or Target alongside the other Micro Machines. So you had to be an OG Star Wars Micro Machine collector to get your mitts on these originally. So now they command a premium. These 3 are some of the rarest Star Wars Micro Machines. These are the rarest, some of the rarest items in the line, up there with a lot of the later Episode 1 items, which we'll definitely do a video on as well. We'll talk about specific prices in a moment. Of course, after we go over individual characters and ships. So Dark Apprentice is collection number 4. That is the sequel to Jedi Search. So that is the second book in the Jedi Academy? Yeah, Jedi Academy trilogy. Included here are Tafanda Bay, the expanded B-Wing, and a probe droid. Your characters are Exar Kun, Lando Calrissian, and Dorsk 81. So Tafanda Bay is a floating city, sort of like Cloud City. I don't remember what planet it's on, but if you look at all the kind of bumpy green things along the edge, those are all trees and forests for this floating city. The expanded B-Wing is interesting. I was kind of curious if the expanded B-Wing was just a repaint of the original B-Wing Micro Machine? It is not. So I actually grabbed a standard B-Wing, and we'll compare them, just in case anyone else was curious, because I know I sure was. So again, here we go. On the left is the expanded B-Wing, relatively rare. On the right here is just your standard B-Wing Micro Machine. So you can see the obvious difference is that they're oriented differently on their stands. They're oriented the opposite way. And then, also slighter differences. The expanded B-Wing does have a bigger cockpit, and actually that's reflected in the lore, in the actual design of the ship itself, in as much as it has room for a gunner. It has more crew members than the normal B-Wing. Then also, if you look, it's a smaller detail, but the wings seem to be thicker on this sculpt. It looks sturdier than the normal B-Wing. So again, this is a completely different sculpt. It's not just a repaint. In case you were curious, it's very possible no one else thought this, but I was curious when I first looked at it. Like, is that just a redone normal B-Wing? It's not. It is its own unique ship. So we'll put these back in the display. Put that standard B-Wing back. But again, I want to do the comparison in case anyone was curious. And now for the probe droid. Here's another story from the Micro Machines Museum website. If we go to that Epic Collections page again, we see a little note by the probe droid. It says, movable leg version, implying that a normal probe droid does not have a movable leg. This is not true. I thought that myself. I got this sealed and I opened it up, and turns out this leg here does indeed move. It's got a little ball joint on it. And some of them it might be kind of stiff, but you can move it around after a fashion. And I thought, hey, it's true. Well, the responses I got were mainly everyone saying that all probe droids do that. So I checked my other probe droids, and sure enough, even though it was stiff, there was a ball joint there, and the leg does move. So, if you're curious, and you've never noticed that before, grab a probe droid, grab 2 probe droids, grab 10 of them, and you'll see all the legs move. We're going to put this to bed once and for all. Micro Machine probe droids have a movable leg. Again, it's this guy right here, the really crooked looking one. Again, there's a little ball joint in there. Some of them might be stiffer than others. Again, the one that came with my collection was very easy to move, and the other one I had, it wasn't so much, but they all do that. Again, in case anyone's curious. For the characters, these are some of the coolest characters from the Epic line. I'm mainly just excited about characters with lightsabers. Exar Kun is this thousands-year-old dark Jedi Sith Master. It's his spirit. Apparently in the book, or at least in the comic book, he has a double-bladed blue lightsaber. And that's actually where George Lucas got the idea for Darth Maul's lightsaber in Episode 1. However, our figure doesn't have that, but either way, still a cool figure. Here we've got a really action-oriented Lando Calrissian sculpt. This is actually probably the best Lando sculpt. If you look, we've got 4 other sculpts of Lando. You have the 2 different Bespin Cloud City sculpts. Those are pretty neutral. There's one of him seated. I believe that's from the Millennium Falcon playset. That's pretty neutral. And then finally, him in Skiff Guard disguise from the Jabba's Palace playset. Again, very neutral, but here he is in an action pose, and that's just cool. So again, my favorite Lando sculpt for sure. And then this is Dorsk 81. So Dorsk is a line of clones. This guy is the 81st Dorsk, and he happens to be Force sensitive, so he is another one of Luke Skywalker's Jedi students. Moving along, we come to Collection 5 of the Epic Collections. This is based off of Dark Force Rising by Timothy Zahn. This is the second book in the Thrawn trilogy, so it's the sequel to Heir to the Empire. What we have included here, we have Coral Vanda, the Scimitar Assault Bomber, an X-Wing. Our characters are Emperor Palpatine, Garm Bel Iblis, and at the end there we have Borsk Phalia. So, Coral Vanda is a submarine. It's like a submarine pleasure cruiser. I believe it's on Mon Cal, the homeworld of the Mon Calamari, so it's a civilian craft. The Scimitar Assault Bomber is a heavy bomber variant. It's used by the Imperial Remnant to bomb opponents into submission. That front pod there can break off as an escape pod. Now, it's not called a TIE Scimitar or a heavy TIE bomber because, if you didn't know, TIE stands for Twin Ion Engine, and apparently this vehicle only has a single ion engine, so it's actually not a TIE fighter. I just thought that was kind of cool. X-Wing, again, normal X-Wing. When we talk about prices and availability, you'll kind of see why, if you're looking to buy and resell, or collect and resell, why these reprinted, re-released vehicles are kind of a pain, because this isn't a unique sculpt. You can't say, oh, this is the X-Wing from Dark Force Rising. It doesn't matter. You could take any X-Wing, and you could take any normal sculpt X-Wing and say that, because it's just a normal sculpt. Here we have a unique sculpt of Emperor Palpatine. Kind of similar to the gift set Emperor Palpatine, but don't get them confused. They are actually pretty different sculpts. I was confused for a second, too. I got the gift set Palpatine. In fact, let me grab that so you can see. We'll compare them as well, just like I did with the B-Wings. So here's your Dark Force Rising Palpatine. Here's your Imperial Forces gift set Palpatine. Let's get focused there. They're similar, but yeah, next to each other you can see, oh, they're definitely different sculpts. I got this gift set one, got him for $5 and thought, oh wow, I'm going to sell this guy for $50. Nope, absolutely not. Those are two different sculpts. So again, I might be the only person that thought that, but in case you're curious, those are two very different sculpts, very different availabilities. Garm Bel Iblis is a well-known hero of the New Republic and of the Rebellion. I believe he's a senator, he's a politician. Borsk Phalia is a Bothan. He's one of the Bothan spies. If you remember, in Return of the Jedi, Mon Mothma says that many Bothans died getting them the information, the schematics of the second Death Star. Borsk Phalia was part of that team that got those Death Star plans. He actually becomes very high-ranking within the New Republic. In the Thrawn trilogy, at least in Heir to the Empire over there, he actually gets in a lot of heated arguments with Admiral Akbar. And eventually, at some point, I think in some later books, he becomes the head of the New Republic. He becomes like the New Republic president. Now last, but definitely not least, probably the coolest of the Epic collections is collection number 6, based off The Courtship of Princess Leia by Dave Wolverton. As far as I know, this book is a standalone book as well, just like Truce at Bakura, so it's not part of any series. The general synopsis here is that there's this star cluster, the Hapes star cluster, and there's a civilization there, the Hapes Consortium, that is very secretive but very technologically advanced, and the New Republic wants to be allied with them. And then their prince, their leader, Princess Isolde, falls in love with Princess Leia and thinks that marrying her will help cement their alliance between the New Republic and the Hapes Consortium. And naturally, Han Solo has a few reservations about that. Interesting story. So, included herein, we have the Hapes Nova battlecruiser, with the Mon Ramonda, and AT-ST Walker. Our characters are Princess Leia, Geth Zirian, and Princess Isolde. So, the Hapes Nova battlecruiser, that's just an advanced capital ship of the Hapes Consortium. Mon Ramonda. Here is one of the most sought after and hardest to find Star Wars micro machines. We'll talk about price in a minute, but it's one of the most expensive individual pieces if we're talking about selling and buying individually. This ship is the New Republic's flagship, so it's kind of cool. It's a variant on the MC-80 cruisers. MC-80B is what that is. AT-ST, again, don't let anyone tell you, oh, it's an AT-ST from Courtship of Princess Leia for $50. because it's just an ATST. There is nothing special about it. No repaint, no sculpt. It's just a reissue. So Princess Leia. I always wondered, why in the hell does she have a red lightsaber? And no one seemed to be making a big fuss about it. So I did some research, and basically, when Luke was helping her build a lightsaber, he'd just kind of give her whatever parts he had available. And so he either gave her a red lightsaber that he somehow came across, or gave her a red lightsaber crystal, and that's all she had. But if you look up Princess Leia red lightsaber on the internet, you can find a few pictures of her with a red lightsaber. So that's why. It's not like a misprint or something. It is cool. She's in what looks like her Endor poncho. So I've seen some people do Endor displays with her. If she wasn't so rare, I'd love to like swap out the lightsaber for like a pistol. Then really do some cool displays with her. But again, really rare figure. So I don't want to take any blades to her. Up next is Geth Zirian. She is one of the dark side using Night Sisters. She's a dark side witch from the planet Dathomir. Apparently, Han Solo, not wanting Leia to run off with Princess Older, ends up taking her to Dathomir, I guess to hide out, but there it's where they run into the Night Sisters, the dark side witches. Finally, it's Prince Isolde himself, the leader or a high up in the Hapes Consortium, who falls in love with Princess Leia and thinks that by marrying her they can cement the alliance between the Hapes Consortium and the New Republic. So, I was saying about how rare these collections are and expensive. So if we're talking sealed, generally these come up once in a while. Now actually right now, as of this video, there is a seller who has all three collections up, all three of the rare collections, going for $250 a piece. And that's a pretty good price. Generally at auction, these things can go up to $400. So I think a general guide to that price, general range would be about $250 to $400, maybe $500. I've seen some sellers list them, buy it now, up to $700. I think that's a bit steep. Again, these are rare, but not that rare. Now, if we're talking about buying individually, I have my own thoughts on some of these ships. So, specifically, if we look at Tafanda Bay, the expanded B-Wing, and Coral Vanda, these are not particularly iconic ships. They don't really show up very much in different video games or other books. They're not big capital ships. Sometimes people list these for like $75 or $80. I don't think that's a good price for them. I've always listed these three around the $45 or $50 range, and they sell a lot better. Again, you might have different experiences with that. I could be horribly wrong, but that's just going to be the case. The really sought-after ships from these three collections are going to be the Scimitar Assault Bomber, the Hapes Nova Battlecruiser, and especially Mon Ramonda. So from my experience, I've sold two of the Scimitar Assault Bombers myself, about $100 and $90 respectively. That's about what you'll see them go for when they do show up, which they usually don't. Hapes Nova, I had listed for $100. I actually took down the listing because I did a trade with someone. He gave me $50 and then traded some rare-ish figures for it. But again, $100 is still pretty reasonable for this. I think one might have gone for about $75. I've actually never seen a listing for this one specifically by itself. Well then again, actually with the Scimitar Assault Bomber and Mon Ramonda, the only listings I've seen are my own. But again, both of those sold at that price. The price is, again, it's looking at about the $100 range. So I'd say about the $100 range on the Hapes Nova as well. Finally, Mon Ramonda. I have sold two of these. First one I sold for $100. The second one for $120. I even had the ability to make a deal. Best offer, that's it. Pardon me. So best offer. and they bought it $120, no fuss. I've heard of these going for even more, almost $200 for an individual one. So I think if we're going to talk about any individual ship being the most expensive, not just out of the Epic collections, but the entire Star Wars Micro Machine line, it's going to be Mon Ramonda. Hands down, it's the most sought after. It seems to be the most sought after and hardest to find, most expensive. Now, if we are selling them, I've seen a lot of the individual figures go for $50 each. What I do when I'm selling in my store, if I do have these, I just pack them together as a lot. So I do the 3 figures for $100. And that's about right. Again, I'll have $100 and then people can make me an offer, and people don't even bother making an offer. They just spend the $100. So I might even be able to say $150 for that. So that's about what to look for. Again, if you do find them listed, and the only individual listings I've ever seen are for Emperor Palpatine and Princess Leia individually, but those are going for about $50. So again, that's about what I'd be thinking. And there you have it. That's it. The Star Wars Micro Machines Epic Collections. My favorite from the entire line, from my very favorite toys, the Star Wars Micro Machines. I'd love to make more videos like this, more video guides detailing different aspects of the line, talk about play sets. I'd like to talk about the Shadows of the Empire collections next. Go over those. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you'd like more videos like this. If you think this would be helpful for collectors or just interesting to watch. And then, of course, what do you think? If they continued the Epic collections, what would you want to see? I think it'd be cool to have a Dark Empire Epic collection. You get like an E-Wing, one of those droid TIE fighters, maybe a new sculpt of Luke Skywalker, get a sculpt of one of those clone Emperor Palpatines, or something like that. But what do you think? What would you want to see if they made another Epic collection? And I'm not going to worry about Legends or canon or whatever, just if you think it'd be cool to see an Epic collection of any novel, what might that be? So again, that's the Epic collections. I appreciate you watching. Thank you very much. Again, let me know what you think in the comments. Hope you all have an awesome